Again, apologies for the bar at the bottom of the screen. Bungie, you are truly terrible for not letting me get rid of these, like, every time. It's also Destiny 1. It's not current. Literally tens of people. Well, not tens of people. Maybe tens of thousands. But either way, they're mentioned in the game update that we would be getting some changes to difficulty in the game because the power creep was happening after last year with the 3.0 subclasses and everything. So this is more details on how they're increasing power around the world to adjust for our power gain. So, what's some ways they're doing some things? So, in terms of high difficulty activities and scaling, basically adept difficulty is no longer existing. And in an eye of it, we had Nightfalls. They went adept, hero, legend, and master. Adept was the version that had 0 champions and barely anything. Basically, that just isn't a thing anymore, because I imagine that wasn't too far off from being just the normal run-through of it. So, it's being obliterated, reduced to atoms. Now, hero difficulty will now be available at the soft cap, and legend and master difficulties will be entered once you hit power cap. And activity levels for the next season are, of course, 1770, 1830, and 1840. So we get a respective idea about the power level and light level we'll be getting to. So we are implementing power level disadvantages to provide a better challenge curve. And at each of these areas, it'll basically be like the way Grandmasters do, where they enforce a light disadvantage, kind of. So hopefully there's going to be more difficulties there. It's going to be less and less the lower you get, but of course more and more the higher you get. So match game is once again being removed, but however, if you do not accurately or do not still accommodate for shields, you will be doing half damage to any shields that you do not match. Then burns and higher level activities are going to be split between surges and threats. Surges are what increase your damage, your own personal damage. They increase elemental damage dealt by 25%. Surges for high difficulty activities change every season based around the featured damage types. And of course, because next season will be the launch of Strand, we'll be getting a lot of Strand surges. And the weekly rotating surges will be Solar and Void, oddly enough, of just those two. Then threats are what is the incoming damage. Basically, the other way around, incoming. So high-level activities will also feature what's called overcharge weapons, where any overcharged weapons will deal 25% more damage. Your kinetic weapon is also increased by 25% if you are using a subclass that matches said surge, in case you wanted to know. Basically, there are words. Overcharged weapons come from several sources. Currently, weapon set per activity, so it could be grenade launchers, auto rifles, sidearms, basically. And weapons featured as champion counters on the seasonal artifact. So if next season we have Barrier Pulse, then Pulse will likely be an overcharge thing. Now, overcharges and surges do not stack. Overcharge or surge, it does not work together. You're already given you only need one for a given damage source. Combatants are harder to stagger, and their health has been increased across the board. This is to compensate for said surges and overcharge. The effect is strongest on most powerful enemies and weakest on rank and file. So don't expect anything boss bar to actually flinch that much unless it's something like Leviathan's Breath that's meant to stun. Now, what is not changing is equipment lock, still Legend and Master, as well as Grandmaster Nightfalls. Matchmaking is still available on Hero, but closed everything higher. Modifiers that affect enemy types, like Fire Pit, or fighting coordination, like Chaff and Togetherness and Bleh. Champion availability will remain the same, and Nightfall revive limitations on Grandmaster, as well as wipe conditions and schedule stay the same. Now, scoring is back in some ways, but going on. Lake of Shadows, of course, and Arms Dealer are going to be updated with new enemies, new encounters, and new mechanics, as well as new objectives, so they're getting reworked. Expect them to be harder and less Sparrow skippable, I imagine. And we're also working on adjusting other strikes like Exodus Crash and Inverted Spire. They will no longer be in the Vanguard Ops playlist for Nightfalls, but will also be dramatically reduced in the regular playlist, so don't expect to see them as much. Then into the playlist itself. Stylish Battlegrounds and Heist Battlegrounds will become part of the Vanguard Ops playlist. The playlist is now power disabled like Gambit and Crucible. This means you won't have a damage advantage or them to you. Daily Rotator, words. Daily Rotators and Weekly Singes have been removed and replaced with one Weekly Surge and one random daily threat. One daily random modifier from our Best Of collection, including Subtle Foes, Lightning Crystals, and more. Vanguard Ops scoring. We just added scoring to the Vanguard Ops playlist. Just like Nightfalls, you earn points for killing enemies and other events like precision kills, picking up ores, reviving teammates with multiplier based on the specific strike. The higher you score, the larger your rank will be. If you get a one-time multiplier on Vanguard rank for earning, for getting below 30,000 points, and the multiplier increases every 5,000 points after the initial 30,000, The largest multiplier available is 7 times for getting over 250,000. I don't know if that match... it might be like a 1.25, 1.5. I'm not sure. That math doesn't make sense to me, but moving on. This applies to all Vanguard modes, including Nightfall, so expect greater rewards and greater ranks based on how well you do. Now, Vanguard challenges. Basically, the strikes pinnacles. Complete Vanguard activities with a surging subclass. Same thing as before. It can be either the season surges for Nightfalls or the Vanguard Ops weekly surge. As well as completing 5 activities, you get increased progress. For harder difficulties, a single Grandmaster Nightfall completes this challenge. So they're going to stay the same roughly, but with a little bit differences. Now, like they talked about before, Battlegrounds will slowly become part of the Nightfall playlist itself, starting with the Mars Heist Battleground that will be introduced to the Nightfalls, I guess, this next season. They will start to introduce others in the following seasons, granted the tests go well. And as well, 2 surges will be available. Threats are dependent on the featured Nightfall. 1 featured overcharged weapon. Combatants are harder to stagger and have more health. And Nightfall activity levels for Season 20 go as follows. You need to be 1770 for Hero to be on par, 1830 for Legend, 1840 for Master, and 1840 for Grandmaster, as well with a variety of additional mods for Grandmaster. Power Delta disadvantages, I'm not sure what that means. That might, come to think of it, that might be the next seasonal modifier, but it's hard to say. But same variety, -5, -15, -12, -25, and the maximal effective targets, I'm not sure what they mean by that. The Nightfall weekly challenge will require you to attain 200,000 points across multiple Nightfall runs, rather than 10,000 in a single run as well for that challenge. Now, raids and dungeons are getting the Power Delta treatment. I'm not sure exactly what that means. You know, the Master difficulty experience for dungeons and raids has its flaws, so we're making a few changes to those looking for a challenge should certainly find appealing. In my opinion, Master raids were already challenging enough. I don't know why they're doing more. So, they will feature 1 overcharged weapon as well as 2 surges for yourself, no threat modifier, but combatants do not have increased health or increased stagger resistance. Want to bring them in line with other Master experiences without needing to build craft towards surges or overcharges. Now, while activities across the board will also be changed, starting with Lost Sectors, they're getting this treatment for a variety of changes to that light as well as modifiers, as well as Nightmare Hunts, Empire Hunts, as well as Campaign Weekly missions that will, I guess, be coming around for Lightfall and Witch Queen. Dares of Eternity and Wellspring will also getting these changes in case that you are still in there, as well as the Seasonal Battlegrounds playlist, which will share the same difficulty settings for Season 19's Heist Battlegrounds, which will also include a rotating surge, weekly changes, rotating threats, and no overcharged weapons. Combatants will have reduced health scaling and regular stagger resistance. So, things are going to get more more difficult in general across the board in a variety of places. So the open world might not be that much different, but activities themselves, specifics, are going to have a little bit more challenge, which does make sense considering how many different 3.0 builds I've seen people come out with that are ridiculous, and how much they are expanding ease of access to 3.0 builds. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did just crank it up to 11 as opposed to 9. My name is Matt Scorpion. I will see you in the next video.